Right. Right. Today is 21st December, and we are once again at the Singapore Buddhist Mission in Serangoon, Singapore. Today we're going to do chapter 4 of SD 39. In other words, SD 39.4. And the title of the sutta is Piya Sutta. Now, this sutta is very long, so I'm going to summarize for you because it's a very interesting sutta. Some parts are very funny. No, this is Piya. My name is Piya. Yeah, my old name is Piya. Yeah. So this Piya is the name of a king, a minor king, who's in charge of one area in northern India. And he's a very intelligent king, all kinds of ideas. He sounds almost like King Milinda in Milinda's Questions, if you remember, that book which was compiled after the Buddha's time. So we can translate this Piya Sutta in different ways. We can say Discourse 2 Piya, but it's not accurate because Piya is the one arguing with Kumara Kassapa. So I've decided to call it simply the Piya Discourse, because in other words, Piya is present. This sutta is interesting in the sense that it shows how in religion, there's a lot of question and answers, debate and so on. It's got the most number of parables, comparisons, about more than 20 parables, comparisons. And it also shows the Kumara Kassapa is a very able speaker, a very wise monk. In fact, Kumara Kassapa is one of those. He is the monk. He is declared by the Buddha to be the foremost of monks who are able to talk in a versatile way. Versatile, that means he can adjust his talk to adapt to anyone. Another interesting thing is that this sutta records events soon after Buddha passed away, after the cremation of the Buddha, the relics were distributed, but before the rains retreat, that means before the first council. So we have a kind of a fix in time here. So you don't see the Buddha mentioned here. We are not told where the Buddha was residing because the Buddha has passed away. So we only have Kumara Kassapa. Kumara Kassapa also is a very interesting monk, very interesting person. He started life as a kind of what we today call a love child. He was born to what they call this prostitute, city woman, very famous lady. So he was abandoned, but somehow the king adopted him. So because of that, he was called Kumara. Kumara you can translate as prince also. And the Buddha also and he became a novice monk when he was nearly 20. And so the Buddha also calls him Kumara Kassapa. In fact, they were not sure when he became a monk whether it was full 20 years or not, so they're not very sure. So they consulted the Buddha, and this is where the Buddha made the rule about ordination, where a person should be full 20 years to become a monk. A full 20 years, that means includes you plus one, like the way the Chinese calculate the birthday, In other words, the time spent in the womb, 9 months, is regarded as 1 year. So it's 19 plus womb years, So it was because of him this rule was introduced. So there's a bit of background on Kumara Kassapa. Oh yeah, Kumara Kassapa's mother also became a nun. And she has never seen the child for many years, So she, of course, missed the child, wanted very much to see him. Then one day it happened, this very dramatic scene on the street, Can you imagine that there's this nun who is the mother, who was the mother, and then there's young Kumara Kassapa who's going on alms round, and mothers can always recognize their sons. So the mother was so happy, she forgot for a moment she was a nun, so kind of like rushed forward to see the child. But then Kumara Kassapa knew, that it's very important that he doesn't behave like a child anymore, because he's a monk and the mother is a nun. So he took a rather dramatic stand. He just very calm, and he addresses the monk, says, you shouldn't do this, addressed the mother in an impersonal way, just like any other woman, So at that point, the mother got a shock. The mother said, "Oh, look at my child, After all these years, I brought him up, and he doesn't even acknowledge me as a mother, But actually, it is a skillful means on Kumara Kassapa's part. Because his idea, he doesn't want the mother to be attached. So this is the best way. Because if he reciprocate, then there are going to be a lot of problems. He won't be able to meditate and breaking the rules and so on. So the mother started thinking, say, yeah, anyway, this should be the right way. I'm a nun and he's a monk. And because of that, both of them practiced and they attained awakening. They became arahats. When we're talking about monks and nuns, novices, and nuns, and so on. So it's not about lay people here. So becoming a monk and a nun can be very difficult in this sense. There must always be a kind of social distance, a kind of renunciation, in other words, so that they become awakened. It's not that they do not like families. It's rather renunciation. Living the home means you give up a biological family, a small little family, for a bigger family. You can go to any monk and nun who is worthy of the name, and you need help, you can talk to this person just like you talk to your father or mother, whether it's a monk or a nun. So in other words, a monk or a nun plays a role of a teacher, counselor, and so on. So the monk and the nun belongs to everyone, so to speak. The monk and the nun sees the whole world like a family, spiritual family. So that's the meaning. Renunciation means moving out from a biological family, small little family, to the big family. All right? Okay, so let me just quickly just read through the introduction so we have an idea how it starts, and then I will summarize the teaching for you. Page 64, is that correct, the teaching? Because it's 63. No, yours is page 63. Look at the reference, D23, right at the top. Can you see D23 then, right? D means Diga Nikaya. It's a long sutta. Diga Nikaya is full of long suttas. Sutta number 23. So you can either remember as the Payasi Sutta or D23. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Venerable Kumara Kassapa was walking by stages, that means traveling on foot, on the Dhamma tour in Kosala country, this is in the north of India, with a large community of monks, numbering some 500. They arrived at the Kosala town of Setavaya, and they stayed in the Sinsapa forest, north of Setavaya. Okay, so there you are. We have this monk Kumara Kassapa living there. And then nearby there is this local king named Payasi, and he's going to have his day rest because it's quite warm in that country, the part of the country. Even in North India, sometimes it can be warm. So they will rest in the daytime. Okay, and the word is Diwaseya. Diwaseya, actually you can translate as siesta, for lay people. For monks, day rest is Diva Vihara. Vihara means residence. In other words, the monks will sit and meditate. Of course, whether they fall asleep or not depends on them. Because usually after a meal, the day is very warm. You easily fall asleep when you're meditating in midday. And that's when the stories of Mara will appear. Mara will appear and distract this monk, meditating monk or nun. Usually Mara will come and disturb the nuns, okay, for some reason. So the king was on the top of his what's called the roof garden. The rooftop is kind of flat and open, and it could from up there you could look down, you could see people passing by. So he was seeing all these lots of the people from Setavaya walking in crowds, in droves, going to the forest. So he asked his workers, where are all these people going? And then he was told that Kumara Kassapa is in the forest, and the people have come to listen to him give Dhamma talk. Now, then, okay, who is this king? Now, he has his wrong views. Let's look at what he thinks, his ideas. Look at, again, page 63, section 2. Section 2. Now, at that time, the following views arose to Prince Payasi. Thus, there is no other world. First wrong view, he said there's no other world, this is the only world, okay? In other words, you can also say this is the only life if you like. That means no future life, no rebirth. Number two, there are no spontaneously born beings. That means no rebirth. Okay. And number three, there is no fruit or result of good or bad actions, no karma. So you can imagine this king here. This is called materialism, materialistic idea. You'll be surprised. This is the most common belief in Singapore now. Yeah, most of those you go, where the mining center is now, right in the heart of Singapore. You see all those busy people, rich people passing by. They have all the money, comfort in the world. So to them, this is the only life, all right, and no other life. So what's wrong with this kind of belief? Well, this kind of belief is problematic because imagine if you say this is the only life, so enjoy as much as you can, make as much money as you can. Even you cheat people, doesn't matter. Because this kind of idea. And you find that some people who do fall into that kind of trap. So like lawyers, they have a lot of money, 20 over million, and they decide, why should I work so hard? Let me run away to some unknown country and live quietly. And they do that, but they get caught, Whereas in Buddhism, we say there is karma. Your action will come back, act on you. And if not this life, future life, right? So we have karma and rebirth. So now the problem is this, people like this, perhaps he will challenge the monk. He'll say, how do you know all these things exist? How do you know there are other worlds? How do you know that there is consciousness, things like that? So all these very big, interesting questions. So this is what the sutta is about. And Kumara Kassapa is going to reply in a very interesting way. Okay? So anyway, just to quickly summarize this point, the good thing about Buddhism is that number one, we are told never to hold tightly to any views that you may have. All views are provisional. Remember, provisional, that means they help us to understand things at this time. All right? As you study the suttas, as you practice your meditation, in other words, you don't just come to temple, do chanting. Of course, you do chanting only every time, and then you find you'll be only on one level. There's no growth. But if you study suttas, that is a study aspect. Then there is the practice aspect, meditation, and then realization. Study, practice, realization. These are called the three good dhammas. So if you study, means, well, look at the sutta as much as you can, listen to Dhamma talks, and then you practice on your own. Even if you can't sit long to meditate, you practice a short while. Practice the perception of impermanence, for example. Then as you grow older and you grow wiser too, everything begins to fit more carefully, more clearly, bigger picture of the Dharma and so on. So once you have this kind of understanding, then you realize, you say, okay, it's better to say believe in karma and rebirth than say God idea. Because God idea, anyone can define it in any way they like. And you see today most of the violence, every generation you got some kind of violence. Now latest big problem is the ISIS problem. So every generation, some kind of new generation of violence. And the strange thing is all these are based on a God idea. They believe in a God idea. But if you talk about karma and rebirth, it's a bit more problematic. You can't go around killing people because it's going to come back to you. So you think twice about all these things. So even though you might say we can't prove karma or rebirth, the idea keeps people in order, makes society possible in a happy and safe way. That's good enough, rather than a God idea. All right? Because these are both ideas, you can't really prove these things. But we're going to look at this. Is there a way of proving it? We'll find out in a moment, okay? Okay, so this king, is also very curious to say, this Kumara Kassapa, his belief are all opposite of mine, so I'm going to debate with him. I'm going to see him and talk to him. So he decides to meet with this monk, and this is where the interesting part comes in. So he goes to see Kumara Kassapa, and then he starts kind of asking all kinds of questions. So he goes to the first thing he tells the monk Kumara Kassapa, he says that he only believes this life. Look at, again, section 1.1. Look further down. Okay. Now 3.5, he meets the Kumara Kassapas, and Kumara Kassapa declares, he says, there is the other world. There is other world means next life, future life, rebirth. Yeah? There are spontaneously born beings. There are other beings in other realms. This is not the only universe. Yeah? The fruit or result of good and bad actions exists. Okay, there is the result of fruit or result of good and bad actions. In other words, karma is real. Okay, so Kumara Kassapa says, yes, this is what the Buddha teaches. This is what I also teach. All right. Then the first reply is given on brackets 1. Can you see 5.3 there? So this is Kumara Kassapa's reply. It says, in that case, O Prince, I will question you on just this point. Answer as you see fit. What do you think, O Prince? The sun and the moon, are they in this world or in another world? Are they celestial or human? So Kumara Kassapa said, do you see the sun and the moon? All right. Then, of course, Kumara Kassapa said, yes, I do see the sun and the moon. So if you look at the sun and the moon very carefully, is the sun and the moon here, or is it they exist on their own? Of course, the king has to agree, say, well, this exists on their own. So there's a very simple argument that Kumara Kassapa is saying, it is possible that other worlds exist. The sun and the moon exist by themselves. Okay, so this is the first one. It's called the parable of the sun and the moon. You can see the big round number 1. Yeah? But now the argument starts. Okay, the king tells Kumara Kassapa, he says, but I am still not convinced with what you have said. Okay, he says, I have relatives, I have colleagues, I know people who don't keep the precepts, okay, who break all the 10 precepts, and the 10 precepts are listed there. 3 of the body, 3 of speech, and 3 of mind, okay? Four of speech, yeah. They destroy life, they take the not given, they commit sexual misconduct, okay, that's 3 of body. They speak falsehood, speak harsh speech, indulge in frivolous chatter and slander, the 4 wrong speeches. And then they're covetous, they have a mind of ill will, they have wrong views, 3 of mind. In other words, basically they break all the precepts, body, speech, and mind. So this king is very, very interesting. He says, so I tell these people, now there are holy men who teach that you do bad stuff, you go to suffering state. So you're sure to go to a suffering state, you go to the hells, you know. Now when you reach there, you come back. If you reach there, you come back and tell me to confirm that the hells exists. Okay, very interesting story. So the relatives say, okay, they agree, all right? So the king said, but Bante, none of these people came back. So none of these people, this family argument, right? You hear some of your friends will tell you this, you know. So none of them came back. Okay, that's the first argument. The question is, how did Kumara Kassapa reply? Okay, Kumara Kassapa, this is how he replied. He replies, he says, okay, he says, you look at Tawatingsa, okay. He says, no, he talks about the hell states first. Parable of the thief to be executed, round number 2, section 7. So it says, this Kumara Kassapa tells the king, he says, okay, imagine this thief is caught in the act, then he's punished, all right? He is going to be punished, you know? So he's kept in the prison and the executioner is there. Now, do you think he can tell the executioner, excuse me, sir, I have to go home and say goodbye to my family, you know? The executioner will never allow him to go, right? Because we're talking about the prison system in the king's time long ago, you know. So the prisoner is caught. He cannot say, can I go home and see somebody and say goodbye? So Kumara Kassapa said, is it possible for him to just take leave like that, say goodbye to his family? Of course not. So, argument is very simple. Kumara Kassapa is saying, if someone's reborn in a suffering state, he will never be able to get up. He will never be able to come back. So you cannot talk like that, because he's born in a suffering state. There's no way out, right? Clear enough, huh? Okay, so this king here, he says, okay, you may be right, but I still don't accept your argument. Then he comes up with another one. He says, okay, this time I got relatives who are very good, who keep all the precepts, all the 10 precepts. So I told him, I said, all right, the king said, there are holy men who say that if you keep the precepts well, you go to heaven. All right, so if you are reborn in the heaven, this time you come back and tell me or tell us that heaven does exist. Okay, the second one, all right? So Kumarakassapa probably smiled and said, okay. So how did Kumarakassapa rebut this argument? Okay, now this is the page, section, round number 3. No? This one's quite funny, So Kumarakassapa says, imagine there is a man, and this man, those days in the Buddha's time, they got open sewers, The toilets are open toilets, you know what I mean? All the things go into this big hole in the ground, And if you're not careful, you might drop into it. And there are stories where monks used to step into it at night because it's so dark. That's one reason why the monks are not allowed to go out collect alms at night, because there are no street lights like here. Anyway, so Kumarakassapa says, imagine this man. He has fallen right into this cesspool, Okay, this what did they call it today? Huh? Yeah, pit. I mean, this all those toilet things going there, sewage tank or all those. So he fell right in, right. Everything on his side. His head also got underneath. So and he's pulled out. He's helped to pull out, and then someone cleans him up, really clean him, very clean, and then wash him. Use yellow clay. It's supposed to be very good, and then shampoo him, and then grease him, and then wash him well, and then groom his hair. Then put on very costly garlands, costly cosmetics, very expensive clothing, and then let him live in a nice house like a palace. Do you think, asked Kumarakassapa, do you think this man will want to go back to the sewer? Do you think he wants to go back, even touch the dirty place or not? Of course not, right? So this is Kumarakassapa's reply. He says, so these your relatives have done good deeds. They are reborn in Tavatingsa. This one, this Ding Dong 7, 33. Do you think they want to come back? You see, and this is something where Kumarakassapa makes a very interesting remark. Look at 9.10. 9.10, the last line. It says these devas will never come back to earth. Why? Because the smell of a human, you got that?
No.
Okay. 9.10? Can you find 9.10? What is your number there? Let me see. Maybe the number.
The one is Tavatingsa is the next paragraph.
Yes. Let me see.
I think it's top of page 72, just above 9.10.
Yes. 9.9. 9.9. Yeah? Okay, 9.9. Can you see that?
Yeah.
The last line. The smell of human. Can you see that? Okay.
Page 72. The
Page
top.
72 near the top. The smell of a human, O prince, will revulse or will destroy a deva from 100 leagues away. In other words, here the word is ubadi. That means not actually destroy, not kill, but it will shock. It will make the deva feel disgust. They say, "Oh my goodness, human beings are so smelly. You never come near." So he says, "How do you expect the devas to come back to earth?" So the devas never come back to earth for that reason. But there's something else, another argument coming, which is even more interesting, coming soon. So here it says the devas are not likely to come back. Okay? So again, the king says, okay, good argument, but I'm still not convinced, right? So then the king says he's still not convinced. He says, well, they still don't come back anyway, but it shows that it doesn't exist, right? The heavens don't exist. Then Kumarakassapa comes with the second argument, very interesting, very scientific one. He says, okay, so these your relatives are reborn in Tavatingsa. They are devas, they're enjoying their life there, But you must remember, the time there is different from the time on earth. Okay, look at section 11. Can you see that? Round number 4, the Tawatingsa parable. In that case, O Prince, I will question you on just this point. Answer as you see fit. Now, O Prince, that which is 100 human years is but a single night and day amongst the devas of Tawatingsa. Okay? 100 years here, that means roughly one human lifespan here is just one day there. You get the idea? So this is like, I don't know if you've seen the recent movie Interstellar, right? About this ship went to a wormhole and then there's different time system there. Okay? So we have this kind of idea in the suttas already. 100 years on earth is just one day and one night in Tawatingsa. And of these nights, 30 form 1 month, just like our time, and 12 form a year. Of such years, 1,000 is the lifespan of the devas of Tawatingsa. So the devas, the lifespan is 1,000 years, and each one is about 100 times. I mean, here, remember, one day in Tawatingsa, 100 years here. So imagine the lifespan is very long, This is only Tawatingsa, and the high heaven even longer still. Now the clincher is this. So imagine, that means if these devas, they are reborn there, the earth relatives are reborn there, and they play, these gods are very playful in the heavens of 33. They enjoy life in the morning. I mean, you come to a new place, it's so wonderful, you want to look around, right? And let's say they spend 2 days looking around. How many years passed on earth already? 200 years. so you say the devas come back, you won't be around to see them anyway if they do come back. See? So this is another very interesting argument that Kumara Kassapa gave. Says you won't be able to know that. Then yeah.
This is very scientific.
Mm-hmm.
In physics, when an object is moving faster, the time is slower. It is scientifically proven. So if the deva also they live on another planet which is moving faster, so the time will be slower. It is it. So then 1 day here will be equivalent to 100 years here. So it's very scientific.
Okay. So of course, the idea of the monk here is not to talk science, but basically the idea is there. And it's amazing that even such an idea could arise at a time when there was no science. So now the king challenges the Kumara Kassapa. Says, how do you know this heaven exists? Now he changed his tack a bit. So he says something like, what I don't see, what I don't know doesn't exist. All right. So then Kumara Kassapa replies with the parable of the one born blind, the blind man. That is round number 5. Anyway, don't worry, you don't have to see the text. I will summarize for you. So Kumara Kassapa says, imagine this blind man, born from blind. That means he's not seen colors, not seen shapes, not seen lights, doesn't know how things look like generally. So can you imagine this blind man says, I don't see colors, I don't see all these things around me, therefore they don't exist. Is it true? Of course not true, right? The king has to agree, not true. Okay? The argument is very simple. We cannot say that just because I don't see something and I don't experience it, I don't see it, I don't know about it, means it doesn't exist. So imagine, let's say, if you say that, then I'll blindfold you, that means you don't see, okay? I'll bring you to a room which you don't know about, and there's no lights there. Even if I leave the light on, it's okay, you can't see anyway, you're blindfolded. But there are furniture in the room, but I won't tell you where the furniture are. And the floor is uneven, and I just let you walk in there. Now you don't know about this room, and does that mean that the furniture won't be there and you won't fall down? You'll still fall down, right? So this is a very interesting argument which Kumara Kassapa gives. But remember, this argument is limited to this idea. It must be based on direct personal experience. We cannot use this argument on everything, because the God believers will say, therefore you must believe in God, right? we don't know God exists. We don't know, we don't see God, but doesn't mean God doesn't exist. The same argument can be used. But Kumara Kassapa says, in reply to the king, because the king says, how do you know? How do you know? He said, well, we know it through our meditation, through the divine eye. In other words, direct experience. Just like when you meditate, you feel very peaceful, Some people will say, oh, peacefulness is not possible. Life is so problematic. Imagine you're living in, say, Afghanistan or all those places where a lot of bombings going on in Syria now. You see all these violent areas are moving around. Afghanistan and then Syria and so on. So imagine people living there, they will say, oh, it's not possible to have even one day of peace. Where is it possible? Look at all this fighting and uncertainty. But then we know it's possible because we have lived here in a very safe place and you can meditate and you sit quietly, you know it's possible from your experience. So Kumara Kassapa says he has done deep meditation. There are monks who do deep meditation. They're able to see other lives, past lives. They can see how beings progress according to their karma or even suffer according to the karma. Okay? So this is argument from direct experience. When you know something to be very true, you have experienced it, you can use this argument. You cannot use this otherwise. Then it becomes a bit, it can be wrongly used afterwards. So it's got limited use, but it's interesting. Okay, then the Payasi is a bit cunning. It says, okay, if you talk like this, well, or you talk about heaven and all this good karma, then why don't all these good people kill themselves, die faster, Very interesting argument. You say, well, you kill yourself, you'll go to heaven, Then the monk said, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So he gives a few reasons why these good people don't kill themselves. He says, for example, this person the karma is not right, so you cannot simply play around with the karma, see? And number two, you let the good karma ripen. Number three, you continue to do good actions so that other people will benefit. So that's the reason why good people don't kill themselves. We don't just want to go to heaven. That's not the way. Of course, here Kumara Kassapa gives the example of a man with 2 wives. He says a certain Brahmin has 2 wives. Then the Brahmin dies, but he has only one son. One son, the first mother's child. Then when this child reaches about 10 or 12 years old, the father is dead. So the child tells the second mother is having a child, but he tells the second mother, says, give me my inheritance, okay? I want to take over the family. Then the second mother says, well, I'm not sure, It's not time yet, because when my child is born, if it's a girl, then then you can share with him, okay? So look at this page, section 13, okay? Section 13.2. Once upon a time, of prince, there was a certain Brahmin who had 2 wives. One of them had a son, 10 or 12 years old. The other was pregnant near her time. Then the Brahmin died, and the boy said this to the other mother, the co-wife. Whatever treasure, madam, or grain, or silver, or gold, all that is mine. There is nothing here whatsoever for you. Hand over my father's heritage to me, madam. When this was said, the Brahmini said this to the boy, wait, dear, wait till my child is born. So he says, well, we have to share with your other sister or brother. So this son says, no, you got to give me now, you see. So God insisting that, right? So this woman is very silly. She has to find out whether this baby is really a boy or a girl, and that the child is ready to be born. So the story goes, it's just a story, okay? I don't think it's real. So then she went into her chamber and cut open her womb. Let me see if I will give birth to a boy or a girl. Of course she'll die. Of course, the king is using Kumara Kaspa using a ridiculous example here to show the king how ridiculous his idea is. So he says, if you do this woman will die, right? Of course, the king has to agree. So what Kumara Kaspa is saying, these good people don't kill themselves because they do not want to disrupt their good karma. We don't want to jeopardize our karma. We let our karma flow naturally, just like you let the baby grow naturally. You cannot cut open the womb and see whether it's a boy or a girl. You let your karma progress on its own. You don't fight your karma or change your karma in that way. Okay? You do good karma, yes, but you got to let it go its own way in that sense. So we cannot simply change things in the wrong way. Okay, so King says he's still not convinced. He says, well, now he goes to another idea. He says, I still hold the idea that there is no other world, no spontaneously born beings, no karma, no good or bad. Okay? In fact, now he says he doesn't believe there is consciousness even. He says, I don't think there is anything but this body. Because it says he has caught a thief in the act. This is section 14. He has caught this thief, and then he has put this man in a jar. Okay, now this is one of the gruesome experiment. He has put the man in a big jar and then sealed the jar. And then when he knows that the man is dead, then he ordered the seal to be carefully opened. But he says, I did not see any consciousness or any life force coming out. So therefore there is no consciousness. This is the king's argument. Then, so how did Kumara Kasapa rebut this wrong view? He asked the king, says, King, oh your majesty, do you dream? He said, yes. The king said, you have to dream. He said, when you're dreaming, do you notice your consciousness coming out of you? Does anyone notice consciousness coming out of you? But then you're dreaming, see? You dream, his dream is very real. Then the king said, no, I don't see all that. So there you are, see? See, even when you're dreaming, you're asleep, but you're dreaming. But you do not notice this consciousness coming out. In other words, consciousness cannot be seen. Right? So that is the rebuttal. No? Now, the king still insists that his idea, he says, it still doesn't accept Kumara Kasapa's argument. He says, okay, I caught another thief, and this time while he's still alive, I weighed him. And then they kind of noticed that he's much lighter, softer, and more flexible when he's alive. But when he's dead, he was heavier, stiffer, and less flexible. So if he's dead and heavier, that means, according to the king, how can the consciousness be there? Because the king's the idea consciousness must have weight and all this, So, but this dead man is heavier, So the Kumara Kasapa says, well, that's the nature of things. You see, when a man is alive, we are lighter, our body is more workable, because we have consciousness, we have vitality, 17.5. We have vitality, that means life force, and we have body heat and consciousness. And this is what makes us lighter. We can move around easily. But when we are dead, it's different. It doesn't matter. Because when you're dead, the body rots and so on, so naturally it's heavier. Right? So it's a wrong argument again. Okay? Then the king comes up with another of his experiments, okay, another argument. He says, okay, this time I've caught a thief, and I punished the thief without killing him. In other words, he's half dead, but still make sure his body is intact. Then you check, where is the consciousness located? Where is the life force located? So they turn the body this way, that way, all around, examine every part. Say, no, couldn't find any consciousness there. Okay? So there is no life force, said the king. In other words, here again, the king, the consciousness or life force must be located somewhere in the body. Now this is a very interesting question, because today you might have people ask you, okay, where's the mind located? Right? Even the scientists tell you the mind some scientists say the mind is in the brain, but in Buddhism we say no, it's not located anywhere. So this is the example, how this Kumarkasapa answers. He says, okay, O king, imagine there is this man who blows a conch. A conch is a big shell, you know. You go to Indian temples when there are weddings or special prayers to blow this horn. It has a deep sound. You know? So it says this man has this conch shell, and he goes to a distant village where people have never seen a conch shell before, maybe in the hill tribes, you know, and he blows this conch, and he leaves the shell there. So these people, they hear the sound and say, wow, what sound is that? They never heard a conch shell before, so they were very surprised. They said, wow, this sounds really amazing, you know. And they see this shell. So they said, oh, the sound must have come from this shell, but where is it located? So they look around, inside out, they turn it all over, just like they turn the man and they look for the consciousness, and they couldn't find the sound. The reason is simple, because the sound from the conch shell is the result of a man blowing into it. Okay? In other words, there is this consciousness is conditioned. It's there, but you can't see it. Okay, so this is the next argument. Now the king goes further. He says, now section 20. No? He says, okay, I caught another thief, and this time his king punished the thief in a terrible way. He skinned or flayed the man's hide. He removed the person's flesh. In other words, try to look inside, whether the consciousness is inside or not, whether the life force is inside or not. Again, the Kumarkasapa says, no, you can't do that. You know? Here it has another example. It says there is this method hair ascetic, this holy man who's a fire worshipper, and one day he saw a lost child, a lost baby, and he takes care of this child. And this boy grows up to be 10, 12 years old. He becomes a kind of a servant boy to this holy man. And one day this fire worshipper tells this young boy, he says, okay, I'm going away for a while, and you know we are fire worshippers, so make sure the fire doesn't go out. You know, you don't just play and then don't let the fire go out, because they worship fire, see, but this boy, being a boy, was very playful, so the fire went out, right? But the father also said, if the fire went out, there are 2 sticks there, you know, you rub the stick, you get fire, and then you light the fire again. But the boy didn't listen carefully, you see. So the fire went out, and then he saw, oh dear, the fire has gone out. My father told me, make sure fire doesn't go out. Now, how am I going to start the fire again? He didn't listen carefully what the father said, how to make fire. So he saw the stick, he says, oh dear, where's the fire? You know, the fire must be in the stick, you know. So he broke the stick and made tiny pieces, couldn't find the fire there. This is a very famous story about how these people try to look for fire inside the wood. In the Buddha's time, those people at that time, they actually believe Agni, the fire god, lives in the wood. So when you rub it or when you put fire, you are waking up the god, you know. So he comes out and then he comes as fire. This is a very nice idea, see. So this child, this boy, was looking for this fire inside the wood. He couldn't find it. He break it down into tiny pieces, couldn't find it. So Kumarkasapa tells the Payasi, says, well, it's like that. See? You can't find the fire inside the wood. Then the father comes back. The father scolds the boy, says, why you never take care of the fire? And he says, don't you know how to make fire? And the boy says, I don't know, I forgot. And then the worshipper says, well, this is how you do it. You rub it. You know? So it's not, the fire doesn't live inside the wood. It is to the condition of rubbing and all these things that the fire starts, right? So similarly, consciousness does not live or exist in any particular part of the body, but it's kind of conditions all over, so to speak, right? So you can see here some very deep ideas, but given some very simple arguments. No? But the king still somehow doesn't want to give up his wrong views. The monk says, the Kumarkasapa says, you should give up your wrong views. It's all wrong. You cannot say there's no other world and there's no rebirth and no karma. And what does the king reply? Look at section 22. The king says, even though Master Kassapa says thus, I am unable to give up holding on these bad wrong views. Holding on to these bad wrong views. Why? For Raja Pasenadi Kosala knows me, and foreign kings too know me thus. Prince Kassapa holds such a doctrine, such a view. Right? So he's saying that I can't give up my wrong views. All these kings will laugh at me. Other people will laugh at me. So to him, the idea of people's opinion is very important. So he's dependent on other people for his status, so to speak. Okay, now Kumara Kassapa is to correct this wrong view. And this one is a very beautiful parable, the parable of the two caravans. Section 11, round brackets 11. So here Kumara Kassapa says, okay, once upon a time there was this caravan of 1,000 carts. So this caravan is very long, so they divide into two parts, 500 each, and there is a leader for each. Caravan A in front, caravan B at the back. Yeah? So each of them has got a caravan guide. Okay, so the first guide is in front, and he's gone through a few days' journey, and then that the food is beginning to be used up, still got enough, and then halfway they met a fierce-looking, red-eyed being. We don't know who that is now. Of course, according to the story, it could be a cannibal, okay? Or you might say today it's a bandit. Anyway. So this person says, why do you travel so slowly? It rains in front, and there's a lot of water and food and grass. So why don't you throw away all your extra burden, then your caravan will move very slow, move faster. You can move faster, and then you can go ahead and refresh yourself. So this caravan A is very foolish. He listened to this, someone who doesn't know, come up from nowhere, and he say, okay, let's throw away jettison all our extra luggage, we can move faster. So they move on, but then they couldn't find that place. There's no such place. And instead they're running out of food, and running out of water, and they became weak, and they couldn't go on very much. Then this fierce guy, this monster and his other colleagues attacked them and killed all of them and plundered the caravan. The caravan was destroyed. Then caravan B comes along. Again, the monster appears to the caravan master B and says, okay, why don't you throw away all your extra burden and you can travel faster, there's a lot of water and food in front. But this caravan B leader is very wise. He looks at this man and says, this is no ordinary being. We don't even know this person, How can we simply listen to this person saying all these things? So he says, okay, no thank you, I'm quite happy the way I am. So he did not throw away anything, so the caravan moved safely. Then they saw all the destroyed caravan A, but they were safe, and they reached the end of the journey safely. So Kumara Kassapa tells the king, says, you're like the caravan A leader, you should not be listening to all these people. So here again, it's like a warning. It says you've got to think for yourself. Don't blindly follow what people say. But again, the king is stubborn. The king says, okay, nice argument, but I'm not convinced. All right? Then Kumara Kassapa is very patient. He comes up with argument number 12. All right? Now this one is really funny. The parable of the dung potter. So Kumara Kassapa says, once there was this pig raiser. This person raises pigs or swine. And one day, he found some dung, probably cow dung, this cow dung, when they drop on the ground and the sun shines, they dry up and can be used for a lot of things, as fuel and so on. So this man, he collected all these round collections of these turds. And as usual, in India, they put it on their head. It's the safest place to carry it. It carries lots of it. It's going to feed his pig with it. Then it happened, it rained. So imagine what happened. It rained, so the water mixed with the cow dung, it started melting and then trickled all over him, And you still walk around and people say, hey, look at yourself, all these smelly things around you, and this man don't care, So Kumaragarbha says, Your Majesty, you want to be like this man. You simply follow what people say, but someone tells you something is wrong, but you don't listen. Right? So all this is wrong view. Wrong view is like cow dung, Right? So you got to be letting all this go, All right? Still, the king won't listen. Then Kumaragarbha comes up with parable number 13, the parable of the dice player. It's a bit more serious. Kumaragarbha says, okay, once there were two gamesters, two gamblers. Gambler A wins, but gambler B always losing. Okay, so whenever gambler B loses, he says this is a bad luck dice. He will swallow the dice. So this A notices this and he wants to cheat B, So he decides to poison the dice. He knows that B will swallow the dice. So he put a bit of poison. So every time B loses, swallows it. So Kumaragarbha asks, what's going to happen to him in the end? He goes on swallowing all this poison dice. He will die, right? So this is like a warning. Kumaragarbha tells the king, says, if you go on allowing these wrong views to remain in you, your mind is going to be confused, going to be poisoned. Again, this foolish king says, yeah, interesting, but still not convinced, he says. And now comes, I think, the last parable, Parable 14, section 29. This is called the parable of the certain country, or parable of the hemp load. Sorry? Yeah. So Kumaragarbha says, once there was this faraway country, a new kingdom, and these two young men, they decide to find their fortune. They go to this new kingdom. And when they arrive in this kingdom, they found some hemp. Hemp is like this, grass which is dried up already. So you can make things with it, ropes even. So he said, wow, look at this hemp, so much hemp on the ground. We can sell this hemp. So they each take a load of the hemp, they tie it up, nice bundle, and they carry it on their head or shoulders. And they move on. Then the next street, they found, this hemp you can weave into threads, you see? Okay, like ropes, like strings. And it's even better, because you don't have to do the work. It's already done for you. So the first person said, wow, look at this. This is even better, You don't need this hemp anymore. You can take all this hemp string, tie it up. I'm going to throw away my hemp. I'm going to take this. So he takes the hemp string, cover it up. But the second friend says, oh, no, I'm quite happy what I have. Why? Because I already tied up, and I'm carrying, I don't want to trouble myself, to do it again and so on. So they move on, right? A took the new load, B says, I'm happy with my old load, okay? Then the story goes on, this progression, gradual progress. The next one is flax. Now flax is even of a better quality than hemp. Hemp is rough, flax not so rough. So we found flax. So this first person said, wow, look, flax is even better, But B says, no, I'm happy with what I have. I don't want to take the trouble. I got to tie it up again. And then next one is flaxen threads. You get threads. After that, they go further, linen cloth, then cotton cloth, cotton threads, and then cotton cloth. In other words, each time things get better, So every time they found something better, A puts away the old load and takes the new load. I mean, that makes sense, right? You take something better, see? Okay? But B says, oh no, I'm happy with my load. So troublesome, I got to throw it away, tie it up again. I'm happy with my old load. And after that, they move on. Next place, they found iron. Iron ore, I suppose. What is better? So iron ore is even more valuable than just cotton cloth. Because those days, iron is quite hard to get. So he collected all this iron and carried it with, rather A carries with him. B is still carrying, what is it? Hemp, right? So they move on again, and then they found copper. Copper is better than iron. So here you begin to see in Buddha's time, the kind of iron, kind of metal, which one is of a better value, greater value. They found copper, tin, lead, silver, finally, gold. Now, gold the best of them all, right? So this A says, wow, gold, this is even better, and I'm going to throw it this, my silver, I'm going to take gold. So he carries the gold. But A says, too much trouble, now I'm happy with what I have. Now, it's obvious, right? The other person B who's skipping on to the ham, this is what? He's holding on to his wrong views. So our wrong views are like that. After a while, they lose their value because they're not helpful to us anymore. Whereas the A is very wise. He sees what's of value and he says, oh, it is even more valuable. I should take this. So Kumarakaspatha tells the king, he says, don't you want to be like A, you know? I mean, you hold to all your old wrong views. And you're like B, you know? He holds on to the ham of very little value. And then here's A. A reaches home with his load of gold. He's able to support his parents and family, and he lives happily. But B, he can't do much. Still, he's not happy, right? So, what do you think now? So many arguments. I think the king should be satisfied by now. Maybe a few hours passed already. It's time for dinner, I suppose. So, no, there's one more thing to go. The king's still not too happy. He says, no, not convinced yet. One last argument. One last one. This one is a parable of the fields. No? It gets more serious now. Okay? So Kumarakaspatha tells the king, says, it says if you hold wrong views, it's like bad seeds. And you sow the bad seeds on poor land, you can't get much crops. Right? But if you use wisdom, then you have like good seeds, and you sow your seeds on good soil, then you get great fruit. Why don't you do that? So this is the last argument, the parable of the good seeds in the good field. Then finally this king says, okay. He says he's quite happy. And he says, okay, in fact he says he confessed from the very first time that Kumarakaspatha gives his argument, he already accepted Kumarakaspatha's teaching. But he keeps saying no because he wants to hear all the teachings. See how wise the monk is. So this is quite a common attitude in ancient time because they want to hear all the teachings. So they just pretend to disagree, but actually they want to hear the teachings. So although there are like total of 14 or 15 arguments, the king already agreed with Kumarakaspatha's argument from the start. So now he says, okay, I'm very happy. And he takes refuge and he is going to make offerings to the monk, Kumarakaspatha. So here is where you're coming to the end of the sutta already. He's already convinced, sort of converted, but apparently he's not a very wise king. So he asked Kumarakaspatha, how do I make a really great sacrifice, really good sacrifice? So the Kumarakaspatha says, whatever you give, you must give with care. No? Hold on, you look at this. Can you see 32.17? 32:17. Having given his offering with care, having given his offering with his own hands, having given his offerings with proper thought, having given his offering of not discarded. Okay? So in other words, the Kumarakaspatha said, if you want to give something, you should, number one, take care to prepare it properly. Number two, it's best to serve yourself. You should be present there to make the dana. You really want to bear the fruit of it. And number three, with proper thought. In other words, you should be happy before preparing, while giving, after it also. Show happiness. And don't give what you're going to throw away. In other words, give proper things. But unfortunately, this king, he was a bit of a miser. He didn't himself make the offerings. He asked his worker called Uttara. Okay, it's a young Brahmin. He tells him, okay, you make this offering to the monk. Okay? And he only gave poor food, this broken rice with vinegar, and rough cloth, very rough cloth. So when Uttara being although he's young, he's very wise. He says, what kind of offering is it? This is really a wrong thing to give to the monks, So Uttara keeps saying, I'm with him in this world, but I won't be with him in the next world. I'll be with him in this world, I won't be with him in the next world. So he keeps on saying that. And then this king heard it, and called him up and said, what do you mean? Why do you keep saying this? Then his young man says, the servant says, oh king, you give all this kind of thing. You're not present somewhere. It's not the proper way. See? Because if you give this sort of thing, your marriage won't be so good. You should give what you eat, what you wear. See? Then the king said, okay, you do that, All right? So the servant Uttara prepared proper food, gave proper robes to the monks. But still, the king is not there. He's too busy with other things, He's like a VIP kind of guy. And there are a lot of these kind of characters in the suttas, There's one other monk called Sunananda. He bows to the Buddha, but then he tells the Buddha, he says, Bhante, if I see you in the streets, I will not get down from my chariot, okay? I will just put down my whip. The whip is for the horse, That means I respect you, okay? Because I won't get down and I won't put my palms together. Because he feels like he's a VIP, and other Brahmins might look at him and he's bowing down to the Buddha, and that's loose face, as we say, So there are all kinds of people, who talk in this way. So this king is also one of that kind of person who feels that his status is very important, right? But even then, he did his offering, and offering, the benefits are there. So now the story goes into another world, rebirth. So the king dies, and Uttara also dies. So the king, having given all these wonderful offerings, but he was not present. He didn't himself give his respect. He was reborn in the realm of the 4 guardian kings. Okay, and he was kind of like a deva there. But Uttara was born in heaven of the 33, higher up. Okay, so he has a beautiful heavenly palace there, right? And then it happened that there was this monk called Gawampati. This Gawampati, he was a deva in the Tavatissa before also. He was reborn on earth, he became a monk. And apparently for him, his day rest is not in the forest, He will meditate and he will go back to this Tavatissa heaven and go back to his old divine mansion there to rest. But there he meets Uttara, who's a deva there. Then Uttara tells him all this, what happened. He says, this king Payasi, he made offerings, but he didn't do it properly, and he was not there personally to give it. So, but the benefits is there, but you see him reborn only in the realm of the 4 guardian kings. But I was the one who told him to do it properly, and here I am reborn in the realm of the 4 guardian deities. The realm of Tawatingsa, okay, in the higher realm. So it says, please go back to the human world and teach the humans to make offerings properly to the Sangha, to the monks. Then they'll have the benefits of a happy rebirth. The sutta ends there. So from this kind of approach, we know that it's quite a late sutta. The sutta basically is telling the lay people how to prepare offerings properly, how to give properly, and so on. It's a sort of time when there are lots of Buddhist believers, so people ask all kinds of questions. So you find there are different ideas in this sutta talking about how to have right views and how to do proper offerings also. So they go both are side by side. Wisdom as well as practice of offering. So the sutta ends there. Oh, it's been a really wonderful study today. Let us close with a short reflection. Today we have studied this very long and important sutta called the Payasi Sutta, with Kumara Kassapa teaching us the Dharma. Notice that even without the Buddha around, Kumara Kassapa still transfers the Dharma to us, even down to this day. The reminder is to think for ourselves, to look within. Sometimes not easy, we find easier to look for answers outside, but that may or may not help. as long as we sooner or later look within, we can find the pieces to be put together and we know what to do next. In other words, we also need to learn through our suffering. Suffering is a great teacher. We learn to put together the pieces of our experiences a bit here, a bit there. Reflecting in this way is very good karma, of the teaching of self-reliance. By the power of this karma, by the power of all the good deeds we have done, our practice of generosity, keeping the precepts, meditating, doing various good works, helping in this place, and so on. May we be at peace, may we prosper in this life itself. And by the power of the three jewels and various other good deeds we have done, may we attain spiritual liberation, especially stream winning in this life itself. In this moment of peace, let us send out our loving kindness to everyone here who are working here. May all the people here grow in the Dharma. May all the beings here be friendly and safe. And also, all those whom the Dharma have not touched, may they see the Dharma for themselves and awaken. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.